Hey, I'm Elles Bailey, and this is the Blues Podcast.
Hi, this is Big Boy Bloater, and you are tuned in to the Blues Podcast. With me today, I've got someone who's making huge waves on the roots scene. I say roots, Americana, blues, all those kind of great, absolutely lovely things that we all love. A fantastic singer, a fantastic musician. I want to say a big hello to the one and only Elles Bailey. Hi, Els. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm bearing up under the strain of everything, really. So yeah. Just about managing to carry on, which is good. So
Happy days. Good.
Are you busy? Are you working hard at the moment, or are you taking time out?
No, it's been all guns ahead. Is that the right word? All guns blazing.
Guns blazing.
That's it. All guns blazing.
Yeah. So anyway, what we normally like to do on these blues podcast things is go right back to the start and find out how it kind of all it evolved for you. So. Let's go right back to the early days. And, how did you get into singing in the first place? I mean, see, I always see these Hollywood movies and, there's always some little kid and they're this fantastic singer and they're at the front of the church and they can't stop singing. And was it like that for you, or was it just not quite as glamorous as that?
I mean, that was basically it. I was probably 3 and I was like, I want to sing. I think I was in the nursery play and they gave me a song to sing and that was it. I was hooked forever. I was really, really actually into musicals and quite into acting and that kind of thing. So all through school I did drama and music and was just really into the arts, really. So I think it was about 8 years old where I looked at the Spice Girls. I looked at Baby Spice and I thought, that's it. Like, I might be a little bit more ginger, so I should probably be aspiring to be Jerry, but no, I wanted to be Baby Spice. I wanted to be driven around in limos and go to massive fancy parties, and that's what I thought being a pop star was like. It's exactly like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lots of limos, hey?
Of course it is. That's all I do all the time. Limos and champagne, that's it. I barely find time for the music, to be fair. It's it's tough. It's tough.
It's a tough
having
life,
to write songs with all the limo and the champagne and all that, and the parties, and it's so hard. It's so hard being a pop star, isn't it?
Honestly, though, that was my sort of, that started me on the path. I'm very, very glad I'm not a pop star. I think the idea of celebrity sort of makes my skin crawl a little bit for their sake. I wouldn't like that. And I love the scene, all the scenes that I trespass in, because it's all just very grassroots and people are lovely. Yeah. And, it's not about being famous. It's just about the music and the community and the people and the music.
Yeah. Do you think in some ways, if you did get to be hugely massive famous, it would kind of spoil it for a lot of people, possibly yourself as well?
I think so, and especially now everyone is so accessible as well via social media and everything. It's just no kind of escaping it. I don't think so. That's not something that I'd sort of like to be, but one day selling out stadiums, obviously.
I don't know about the stadium thing as well, because for me, doing a gig is almost literally that thing of having the people right there in front of me and feeding off their energy. And stadium, I think we've all done some fairly big festivals now, and you start to get an idea of how disconnected from the audience you get very quickly.
I love intimate shows. Intimate shows are where it's just honest, isn't it? And when you get to the bigger shows, it's like I'm watching a lot of baked beans dancing around because it's just so tiny. You can't see people. So
a lot of your audience bald-headed men, by any chance?
They're wearing hats though.
Oh, okay, right, okay, gotcha. I'm with you now. So I think. yeah, for me, it's like, do you know what? I'm quite happy with the smaller venues and all that. I think I almost feel sorry for some. You hear some of the big stars sometimes, and that you can see it in their eyes that they're so disconnected, and they would give anything to go back and do like a small gig, but they just can't do it now because they're so, so huge and so inaccessible that it's all been ruined for them. So.
What I quite like is when some of the big country stars that are super famous in America, they actually come over to Europe, and because they're not so famous, they play much smaller venues, and that must be amazing to sort of come and play these.
That's the best of both worlds, isn't it?
Yeah, you get to be kind of super famous in one country and then actually get to do the roots thing as well.
Yeah. Because the American country thing is so huge, isn't it? I mean, it's absolutely massive. I've known a few people who were, DJs and into that sort of thing. And I never, up till quite recently, realised just how huge it is. I mean, they're selling millions and millions of records a week kind of thing. It's obscene.
Yeah,
and, I guess outside of America, the country thing is, we got our roots thing going on and all that, but it's not at that superstar status level, is it? It's No,
it's very different, and it must. I mean, it's just a whole other world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One I'm sure I'll never get to experience, but yeah, there you go. Maybe one day. Let's just go back a little bit. I'm quite interested to know how you made the jump from kind of wanting to be Baby Spice to kind of being like the queen of roots and, getting into all the blues and the country and that sort of stuff, because, Spice Girls, as popular and as successful as they were, the music wasn't exactly quality, shall we say. I don't want to be negative, put them down or anything, but...
it's not roots music, is it?
No. I mean, when did that occur to you? Is that something you thought, do you know what? Yeah, this doesn't have a lot of mileage in it for me. I'm going to find something better, or was the root stuff always there for you?
It wasn't really. So, I definitely have my dad to blame for my love of roots music, and he was a bass player in a rock and roll band. So I was sort of introduced to rock and roll and blues and country Americana, but it wasn't that then. It wasn't called that. Yeah. From a really, really young age, he just didn't look like Baby Spice. So, but to be honest, I grew up listening to the band and the Eagles and all the Chess Records blues and loads of great soul music as well. My mum's a gospel singer, so I was brought up in church as well, so I got that too. Right. And that was sort of my roots. And then obviously I was born in the late 80s, so I was a 90s kid. I was surrounded by that pop music from, when I was at school. And then I actually ended up in an indie band when I was about 15. And I did that until I was about 21, 22. That was with my brother. And we did everything together. So I felt like I could never do it without him. He's my older brother. I look up to him. He's a great guitarist. And then he ended up taking over the family business. And I thought, okay, I'm not really loving what we're doing right now. And you're about to leave the band and I don't want to do it without you. So I went to uni and I studied psychology.
Okay, as you do, yeah.
Yeah, and it was in my third year that I was just messaging an old friend of mine who's we'd sort of been introduced, and we'd known each other for about 5 or 6 years, and he just said, "Oh, why don't you come over?" And I was like, "I'm meant to be writing my dissertation." He's like, "Oh, just come over. Let's just play some music," and we did, and his name is Brian Banks, and that's what started the Elles Bailey project. But it took me a long time to find any sort of direction, and it was just about then that I just started going back to the roots really that I'd been brought up with, and started revisiting the band and the Last Waltz, and and it just started me on this path. It felt very organic and natural. My voice has that sort of husky element to it, so it felt like it was very much in my wheelhouse, way more than, pop or indie music had ever been. So, and it just felt very, very natural. And the more I listened to all these old records again, the more my music started to reflect what I was listening to. So,
just talking about the husky voice and all that. How does it work for you these days? I know when you were really young, you had like a bacterial thing, right? And that's what you say could have contributed. I can't even say the word. To the voice. Is your voice pretty sort of sturdy and rock hard these days? Pretty.
I mean, I have to be very, very careful with it because I think I'm starting. My basically my vocal cords were scarred from being on a ventilator. I was on a ventilator for 17 days. So this was back when I was 3. So just before the nursery play. And, I went from having sort of a normal toddler's voice to this really, really, really husky voice. And so I've always had to just be careful with it. If I'm touring, I don't drink, I don't have late nights. But I mean, the tours I've done have been mental schedules. So sometimes I'm like, why do I do this to myself?
Yeah. They're never planned out really nicely, are they? That's just the way tours go. I always remember a guy spoke to me because when I sing, I've got quite a shouty. It started off as a sort of blues shouting type sort of thing, and it's just got more shouty from there on. Really, it's not really singing; it's more shouting than I do. But I remember a guy coming up to me at a gig once and saying, he just come up to me at the end of the gig and said, "I used to have a friend who used to sing like you," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's nice." He said, he can't talk now, and he just walked off. And I thought, what? Okay, thanks. Like, I
don't know what to do with that.
Forward to. Yeah. But yeah, just reminds me of that. And yeah.
Do you lose your voice often?
No. And for me, it's if I take a break, that's when it's the problem is. If I find if I do the more nights together I do, the better it is. It's I guess it's a muscle, and most of the time I'm just sitting around not using it, and it's not till I go and do some gigs that I actually use it. So. Talking about the voice, but obviously as well, you do play a bit of keys as well. When did that come in?
So I started playing keys from a really young age. I was taught classical piano, reading music. I mean, they attempted to teach me how to read music. I managed to fake it for quite a few years. I managed to get to grade 3 without reading a note of music by literally just listening to the teacher, and then sort of learning it by ear rather than by what I was seeing. And then when I moved schools to go to senior school, we moved teachers, and I think by then my mum had realised that I was really not actually that into the piano, because I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand like the whole reading music, and I was playing music that didn't inspire me. But I knew the school I was going to was really into sort of finding ways of really helping people, find their path in the arts. And my mum sat down with the new teacher and said, she wants to be a songwriter, she wants to be a performer, teach her how to play like Elton John.
Okay.
And I mean, I failed miserably. I cannot play like Elton John, but he taught me how chords work, and he taught me, everything you need to know about, writing songs. And as soon as I started those lessons, I started writing music, and I was 13, and no one will ever get to hear those songs, but it started something. So, and I've just sort of, I feel like, Elton John has just been such a huge inspiration to me, and the songs that I write on the piano, you can definitely hear some Elton.
Yeah, a great influence, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the first song you ever wrote was?
I do. Do you want to hear the lyrics?
You're going to let us in on the secret?
Yeah,
just tell us the title and we'll go from there. So I don't want to get too,
I don't know what it was called actually, but it was like, you've got to be what you want to be. You've got to go where you want to go. Okay. It was all following your path and your dream and empowerment and that type of thing. I was 13, so.
Well, it doesn't sound too bad for 13. I think the very first song I wrote was something about Daleks. I think
Nice.
Seek, locate, exterminate, or something. It was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awful. Not awesome. It was awful. And
How old were you?
I was probably 12, 11, 12.
Nice.
I think I got a guitar. Again, speaking to a lot of people, you've got a very similar story. Starting off the classical thing, and you think that's not really what I want to do. My parents got me a nylon string classical guitar, and it was, got me some lessons, and it was like, this isn't what I imagined. So pretty quickly I worked out how to put a microphone inside the guitar and plug it into my dad's hi-fi and like turn it right up and get some sort of distortion kind of going. And it was, it was all something about, I don't know. Oh, what a terrible nightmare. I've just remembered all that. Oh, this is like therapy. It's coming back. Oh, bloody hell. Let's move on. Let's talk some more about you, shall we? I've got all flustered
Exterminate.
now. Oh, exterminate. Oh, what a chorus. Oh, what a chorus. When you are songwriting, is it the piano that you go to now for, sit down and start writing, or do you start with lyrics? What's your sort of songwriting process?
I don't really have one, actually. I'm currently in the process of doing a written interview all about songwriting, and it's so interesting, all of these questions that I've been given, and it's like, I don't really there's no pattern. Often it depends who I'm in the room with. I write by myself, but I also really like to co-write. Right. I gravitate towards writing with people who play guitar. The music that I want to produce as an artist is more guitar led than piano based. Although I do enjoy the piano, I think it adds a nice colour to sort of my albums and stage show. The stuff that I feel is on the guitar. So writing with someone in the room who's playing an amazing guitar lick, that is massively inspiring. So if I'm doing that, I think we get in the room and I just sort of be like, play something in drop D, or and we just sort of riff around that, and that will be the basis of a song. But I've got a song called Girl Who Owned the Blues. It's from my first record, Wildfire, and I'd just finished a European tour. It was 2016, April 2016. Came home, obviously, absolutely shattered, and popped on some Netflix, as you do, and I watched the docu-film about Janis Joplin called Little Girl Blue. And by 2/3 in, I'd written a song, basically, just lyrics. I'd just felt so incredibly inspired by her utterly tragic story and the sort of colours that had, painted her life, basically. And it was, I looked at the paper and I thought, my goodness, I've written a song. I put it on pause and went to the piano and wrote Girl Who Owned the Blues. And that's probably the I don't have many songs where I write the lyrics completely first.
Right, yeah.
But that was one of them, and I never finished the documentary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never finished the documentary, but there's this one little bit which kind of this was the start that inspired the song. She had her face printed on the front page of the university newspaper, and it said ugliest boy in school, and I was just like, my goodness, the cruelty of that. It just absolutely broke my heart. And
kids are great, eh? Yeah.
I know, right? Oh my goodness. And I've just had a little boy, and I'm just terrified of sending him out into the world because kids are cruel.
Yeah, they are. But the world's cruel.
But they're lovely as well.
It's it's a way of getting hardened to it all, isn't it? So by the time you get to middle age, my age, you can be miserable and grumpy and just shout at everybody. It kind of works out, and it all comes around. It all works around in the end. I want to talk a little bit about Nashville, because I know you recorded your first couple of albums out in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I guess, it's music capital of the world almost, isn't it? Nashville. It's everybody and anybody is there and doing stuff. When was it you first decided, you know what, I'm going to go to Nashville? How did you make it happen?
So it was a complete fluke, basically. My dad said to my mum, Lynn, do you fancy doing a trip around the southern states of America? My mum is more hotel, my dad is more motel.
Okay.
She turned around and was like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Who's going to look after the dogs? Is that Elles? Yeah. Do you fancy doing a trip around the southern states of America? I was like, hell yeah. Mum can look after Roxy the dog and we'll go. So as far as I was aware, I was planning a trip around. We're going to fly into Atlanta, drive up to Nashville, go to Jackson, New Orleans. That's what I thought was happening. And then, unknown to me, my dad literally just started calling people in America, because the most incredible thing about Nashville is everyone publishes their phone number. You know, it's not like the music industry here in the UK, which is really closed doors. And I'd found that I'd had so many doors closed over here, and I was so close to quitting before I did Wildfire. And then suddenly one of the guys that he'd spoken to checked out and saw that I'd done a cover of Taylor Swift's Shake It Off, and he was just like, I love this. I absolutely love this. I want to get you over to record a version of this in Nashville, because, you know, obviously the Taylor Swift story, she started very much in the country scene, and then that album was the pop record, and that was her sort of real move into sort of mainstream pop. And then I'd, you know, myself and my touring band at the time had turned it on its head and, you know, basically taking the song back to its roots, or more her roots. And he just loved that. And then that sort of, he was like, I want to do a record with you. And I was like, hang on a second, I'm just doing a road trip. Like, what's going on? I'm not a country artist. Why would I make a record in Nashville? And I basically cancelled the trip twice. I was like, really? Yeah. And then finally they were like, look, just come over. Yeah, coming over anyway. Come and meet us. And on my first meeting, we sat down on Music Row. He introduced me to Bobby Wood, who is just, you know, musical royalty. And he worked with Neil Diamond and Dusty and Elvis and Johnny Cash, and he was part of the Memphis Boys and the American Studios band. And he just was like, Els, I've set up a write with myself and Roger Cook. That's in 2 days' time, and we wrote a song called Shackles of Love, which is another story, which was mental, working with them as well. And then that just turned into me recording 5 songs for Wildfire, and they went so well that I was like, okay, I've got to finish what I've started here. So that was Wildfire. That's the story of Wildfire, and it totally happened by accident, and with my dad pretending he was my manager and being like, Elles Bailey's coming into Nashville, let's set up some meetings. So yeah, absolute legend. And then because I went over to Nashville, and I don't think there was a huge amount of people doing that at the time. You know, Joe Harmon had just done it, but there, you know, not a huge amount of people. I feel it's become very, very common recently, but I brought that story back, and doors started opening here as well. So it's just strange how things like that, you know, it took me to leave to actually open some doors over here and sort of kickstart my career again.
Yeah, interesting you say about the, you know, in Nashville, everybody sort of publishes their phone number. And do you think that's something that we should do more in the UK and Europe?
I don't know. I mean, having done a radio show or, you know, promoted shows before, the amount of emails you get literally just from doing that. So I can understand why people don't. It's, you know, you're opening up a whole door of just, you know, a lot of stuff. It's obviously you really want to find great music, but it is good to have inroads in and people that you trust to be like, hey, this is a really, really great song or something like that, you know.
Would you put your number out there?
No.
I'll tell you a story from years and years ago when I first kind of started. It must be nearly, I don't know,
3 years ago.
Long time. It's a long, long time. Yeah, more than 3 years, definitely. But back in the day when we used to have business cards, and it was really early. It was before internet, anything like that. It was way before that. And I had these business cards, and I remember halfway through a gig. It was one of those gigs where you do it like an hour's set, and then you come off and you have a break, and then you go back on again.
Oh yeah.
And this guy came up to me. I think I was selling some CDs, and this guy came up to me and said, have you got a business card? And I fished one out and gave it to him, and he started talking to me. And he said to me, do you wear makeup on stage? And I'm like, well, you just watched me for an hour. I'm here. No, I don't wear any makeup. Does anybody in the band wear makeup? I'm like, well, Lisa, the sax player, wears makeup. He went, which one's Lisa, the bass player? No, the saxophone player. Oh, okay. And then he looked at my card a little bit, and he looked back at me, and he says, is this your address? Because my home address was on the business card. And I'm like, yeah. He said, I'll come round to see you. It's like, no, don't. Don't. And that's when I started taking my phone number and my address off the business card, because I just thought, this guy's going to turn up. Luckily, it was miles and miles and miles away from where I live, so I think he probably forgot it.
I think it's quite hard for artists starting out when you're trying to work your way up the, never-ending ladder that is the music industry, and finding a balance between having a business card. The amount of people, I kind of never did. I just had my website, and I just always sent everyone there. But people in the industry then kind of found that weird when they were like, well, I just want your email address. And I was like, this is all I've got. So it's sort of like this funny balance. Maybe I should have had cards for industry and then please go sign up to my mailing list.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to do with it. So I want to talk a little bit more about Nashville, because obviously you recorded quite a lot there. Now, how did that work out? Were you using Nashville musicians?
Yeah, so I used on Wildfire, I used some Nashville musicians, but I also used Joe Wilkins on, I think, about 5 or 6 tracks, and then Johnny Henderson. So Joe Wilkins I've been working with since 2014. He's sort of, without Joe, Elles Bailey would sound very, very different. Yeah. He's been such an integral part to my sound, and a lot of people know him and I together, if that, musically. Yeah. And then I've been playing with Johnny Henderson since 2016, and he put organ on Wildfire as well. So it was a mixture.
Did it cause any problems, like with the UK band? Thinking, well, hang on a minute, why aren't you using us? We're good enough for touring. What, not good enough for recording now? Are you getting
There's what a question.
Yeah.
What a question.
We like the dirt here on the Blues Podcast.
I mean, I'm not. It wasn't easy at times, and I think there's, what I will say is I've just made a record. I was meant to be going to Nashville. Joe and I were meant to go to Nashville in May 2020, because I'd done some recording over there in September 2019. I thought, I'm going to go back and finish what I started. Obviously, couldn't do that. And I was like, okay, that door's closed, but I have now this incredible opportunity to make a record with my touring band, who are amazing, like absolutely incredible. And then what's been wonderful, even though the record's not out, we did this big tour back in October and November, and it was so great playing music, like playing the songs that we'd recorded with the same band on stage. That felt magical for me, and I've loved all my different recordings in Nashville. I feel so incredibly privileged to have done what I've done. It's probably from quite an early part in my career, but to make this album that we're just about to release with this band, with the guys that have been with me for so long. Yeah. In a time where music wasn't really happening,
Yeah.
It was a strange silent days, so it felt incredibly special. And then going out and taking that on the road is just, I feel like we are the best that we've been, but it's because they're playing songs and parts that they wrote,
Yeah, right.
So that's what I will say.
When the pandemic hit and gigging was cancelled for the foreseeable future, you were quite good at taking up the online thing, weren't you? I mean, were you keen on doing that, or was it just like, I've got to do something, so I'm gonna go there?
Well, I didn't even really think about it. It was like I got home, it was my birthday. It was the 17th of March, and we'd been on tour. So even though the UK hadn't officially locked down, I'd called the tour on the 15th of March, and then obviously Boris called the tour on the 16th of March. So we'd already decided that we were just going to go home and isolate anyway. We'd been on the road for about 5 or 6 days. I was like, it just seems wise that we now don't see anyone. And then obviously lockdown happened on the 23rd. But I felt very, very... Firstly, I was like, well, I'll see everyone in 3 months anyway. Like, this will be over and we'll be back out on the road again.
In a couple of months. Yeah.
Well, I just enjoy the sunshine and have a glass of wine. But I felt very conscious of the fact that I'd been on the road with my band, and I could sit in front of the screen and get tips and stuff like that, and it wasn't so easy for them, and they're such a big part of it. So what I did is I was like, well, I'm going to do this, and all of the tips I'll give to them, because they've just lost a huge part of their income overnight by my tour being postponed. So that kind of spurred me on to make sure that I got out there and was going online. And I felt really inspired by people who did that. It's just strange times, and you kind of look back at it and it's like, what the heck? But it was very isolating and lonely for everybody.
Yeah.
And I was watching people develop relationships, like fans from Ireland meet sort of fans from the Netherlands who would have never have met if it hadn't been for the comment stream on Facebook and stuff like that. And I was just watching like artists connect with fans, and then fans connect with each other, and they crop up on different streams, and I was like, this is really beautiful. It's a really heartbreaking time, and there's so much sadness in the world, but actually there's this little bit of connection that was driving me to continue to...
The one good thing to come out of it is,
and the fact that actually it's great that you're in France and I'm here in the UK, and we can sit and have a chat. And of course, all of this technology was here before. I mean, since I've been working in Nashville, I've been using Zoom since 2016, but it's now it's become the norm, and it becomes okay for me to be sat in the living room with a mic and you over there, and we can do this and have just a lovely chat.
I mean, gig wise, how did you deal with like doing, because I did a few online Facebook things and all that, acoustic shows and bits and pieces, and sitting in your own living room banging out songs, you don't get that same adrenaline hit or anything, do you? You haven't got the audience there to feed off. It's you're just in your comfort zone in your own living room, and it's just like normal, but you're trying to do this gig and make everything exciting. And how did you drive yourself to like get that enthusiasm to do it?
So I think I kind of just was like, this is me, it's warts and all. This is Elles Bailey with no amazing musicians making me sound good. So I can only apologise for that, basically. A lot of self-deprecation during the early lockdowns. What I will say is in June, so just as sort of restrictions were lifting a little bit and we were allowed to get in a room together, I was invited to a studio that it's called White Noise Studio, and it was just a rehearsal studios that had decided to turn into this sort of high-tech streaming studios, and they said, Els, do you want to come down and do this? And I was like, that sounds great. So I got Joe Wilkins and Matt Jones, who's my drummer. And we'd never done that lineup before, but we could only get 3 in the room and be 2 meters, socially distant from each other. So I was like, okay, cool. I did that show and it was amazing. First of all, I didn't have to engineer myself. I had these incredible cameras that, were putting us in 4K, which maybe isn't a good thing, but it just, to just walk in and actually not have to worry about the technical side of things and is this going to work? That felt amazing. And then I went back the next day and I had to do like a festival live stream. And I got so many messages after being like, "Elles, are you okay? You seem really depressed today." And I was like, I am depressed. I've literally just had like the holy grail of live streams and now I'm back in my bedroom, just me again. And so that was when I started to lose a little bit of love with the whole just me at the piano again. And I got a lot better at the piano. Lockdown, basically the 3 lockdowns were great for me as a pianist. And then I had a baby and then I haven't played since. So now I'm terrible again. I'm going to have to relearn it all over again. But it was it challenged me as a pianist. And I really enjoyed re-envisaging my songs, the amount of people that requested Medicine Man. So one day I was like, you've requested this, guys. This is like slide guitar heavy.
You don't know what you're asking.
Yeah. I was like, are you ready for this? And I did it. It was hilarious. But it was like, do you know, it's quite nice to do the challenge and think, okay, I'm going to give this a go and show to everyone, why I desperately need a guitarist to make me sound good.
But sometimes the challenging stuff is the interesting stuff, though, isn't it? And
exactly.
You don't have to get it right. It's people just like to see that process, and having a go, and it's just like that they'll remember it, and it's
and they all know that they get the mistakes for free. So
yeah, there's no refunds. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I was in a similar situation to you. I was doing right in the middle of a tour in March of 2020 when it all kicked off. In fact, it was going to be my last tour for a while. I was going to take a break, and my plan was I was moving to France, and I've got a great big barn here. I was going to turn that into a beautiful studio with cameras and everything for live streaming, and that's what I wanted to do. Kind of do some live streaming. And then suddenly the pandemic hit, no one could do any gigs, and everybody is doing live streaming. And I thought, oh, well, that's kind of ruined that a bit. Everyone's going to be sick of it by the time I actually get around to doing anything. So, yeah, it's.
Did you build the studio?
I'm still building it now.
Nice. I think,
but I've only been here a year, so it's.
I think there's a real place for streaming still. Obviously, it doesn't have the kind of following that you would have had in the lockdowns when everyone was at home. Yeah. But for me, it really highlighted how sometimes inaccessible music can be to so many people. If you have disabilities, there's not many venues that you can go to in places like Bristol. So suddenly, or at a time now, people are still very nervous about going out. So I do think there is a place for high quality streaming. Yeah. And I'm still making sure that content that I create, like live content, is filmed and all of that, because it is important and people like.
I think one of the reasons for me doing it was every time I announced a tour, and it could be a big tour, a little tour, anything, UK wide. I'll be trying to hit all the major towns as many as you can. And the first comment you always got when you put up the tour sheet was someone saying, "Oh, you're not coming to the town where I live. Can't you come and play? Can't you come and play here?" And it's like, oh, you actually want me to come and play at your house, don't you? So I thought, right, I'm going to do that. Live streaming, that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep all these people quiet, saying, why can't you come to my town? I'm here. Yeah, you must get that. I think everybody gets that. And it's often like, oh, you're playing Farnham, but you're not playing the town next to it. It's just like, it's 3 miles away. I mean, how much do you want this? Come on, you got to work a little bit for. I'm meeting you halfway here. Come on. Yeah, don't get me started on that one anyway. That's a whole nother.
That's a whole other story, isn't it?
That's a whole nother rant for another day. That is.
Oh, I love it. But it's great that people want to come and watch you live. You know, you say it joking,
absolutely.
Stuff, but you know how amazing is it that people are like, I come to my town, like I want to see you. I can't wait to see you live. Like that's exciting.
Again, something you were saying earlier about fans meeting online and all that sort of thing. I've seen it as well at gigs where people will travel. Some people travel so far, make so much effort, and they come along to as many gigs as they can on a tour. And you start to see them making friends with other fans in this community getting together. And you think, wow, these people have got to know each other because of me. And it's kind of really, you just think, if I've done nothing else, two people have made a friendship. And I think that's a fantastic thing.
It's beautiful,
that makes me feel really proud. It's wow, it's an incredible thing.
There were quite a few people on this last tour that did about 5 or 6 shows all over. I'm like, wow, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like someone in Glasgow and London, like they did the Glasgow, the London, the Southampton. Well, that was the November before. We got 2 dates in October 2020. I was like, I'll get as many as possible done because I was pregnant at the time. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel in November 2021. So let's do what we can, and we managed 2. So.
Wow. Yeah, fantastic. Let's talk a little bit. I know you got a new album coming out, but what else are you hoping to achieve in the next couple of years? Is it some sort of world domination, or just quietly sitting in the back of the limo, just waving to people quietly?
Yeah, I've been practicing my wave. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm massively looking forward to the Joe Bonamassa cruise. So I remember getting booked for that in September 2019. So we're all due to go in, August 2020, and then obviously that couldn't happen. So they rebooked me, and then when I read the sort of terms and conditions of cruises, they were like, no babies under 6 months will be allowed on this. So I had to email them. Oh my goodness. And I was like, guys, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to pull out of the 2021 cruise because, I'll have a 5.5-month-old baby. And, I don't know if I'll want to leave him, and, it would have been for 5 or 6 days. And so they asked me to write, a statement of why I couldn't go on the cruise, and then it never got posted. And I was like, they're going to postpone. And then I got another message. They're like, Els, we're going to postpone till 2022. Would you like to do the 22? I was like, yes, please. And I know you don't want to postpone, but I'm desperately happy about this because now I get to do it. So, fingers crossed. August 2022. Lining, eh? Yeah, exactly. So I'm really looking forward to that. And
how's your sea legs? You think you'd be all right?
I get really seasick.
Oh no!
But I'm sure it'll be fine. It's got worse. I've got older as well, but I'm just gonna ignore it. And obviously, it's been so long since I've been on a boat. Anyway, I think I'll relish the seasickness.
Yeah,
or interview me afterwards.
I guess
I'll be
this
green.
is a bit more on a boat. It's probably got some sort of fancy sea technology to stop you. I don't know quite how cruises
hopefully.
Work, yeah, I remember playing on a cruise once, and it was just an absolute blur. It was only one show, but because it cruised around Norway or something, I think we were on the boat for 3 days, and it was just a blur of 24-hour bar, and I can't remember anything about it.
Did you see any of Norway?
No. I barely saw any of the boat, to be honest.
Those are the best stories, aren't they?
Oh, they were the days, yeah.
Like I was going around the fjords in Norway and I literally saw the bar.
Yeah. Well, that sounds pretty good to me. But,
yeah.
I guess I better wrap this up, and I always like to finish up these things with this crazy question that I put to everybody. So I'm going to ask you this question. It's a bit of a strange one, so just bear with me for a second. I'll explain it to you. I want you to imagine, if you can, it's very far in the future, and you've had a fantastic career. It's gone from strength to strength. You've achieved everything you ever wanted to, and much more. And life has been good. And the world at the same time as well has become a very nice place. Everybody's kind of getting along, and things are great. We've worked out all our problems. And we think, yeah, it's just great. We've got everything just right now. It's all perfect. Until they announce that a huge meteorite is going to hit the world and just demolish it. There's going to be nothing left, completely wiping it out of the galaxy. So the world president gets on the phone. There's a world president now, sort of keeping everything happy, and he or she or whoever says to you, right, Els, I take it you've heard about the meteorite and our impending doom. What we thought was it would be great if the human race went out with this huge party. The whole of the world is going to have one great big party, and we're all going to just celebrate what we've done and go out together all smiling and happy. And the reason they're calling you is they want you to come and do a gig for them, and they want you to do a show. They want you to put together a special band, a world-class band. You can pick anyone you like. So I want to know who's going to be in that world-finishing band, and what song are you going to play?
Oh, wow. Mavis Staples is going to be in it. Bonnie Raitt's going to be in it. I mean, Joe Wilkins would definitely be in it. Obviously, all of my band members, Yep. But if possible, because the world's, been put to right, and people who may have passed away could possibly come and play this gig as well.
Yeah, there's definitely like holograms available.
Is there? Okay, Joe
But,
Cocker as well.
Okay, oh wow.
Joe Cocker's going to be there. I really want John Prine to be there as well. I can't really. Oh no, of course. I mean, John Prine and Bonnie Raitt. So, I feel like the rhythm section is lacking at the moment, and my brain is not functioning. Levon Helm on drums. Sorry.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Can't believe I.
Fantastic.
Obviously, Levon on drums. Leland Sklar on bass.
Wow. Yeah.
Elton on piano. Yep. Steve Winwood on Hammond organ. It's such a great band, isn't it?
That is a great band. Yeah, I would like to see that band. Yeah, definitely.
And what song?
As the meteorite's coming into view, what song are you gonna finish up on?
We're gonna have a bit of Rocket Man, and then Space Captain.
Yeah.
So. Let's escape the into space. So
yeah.
I think I'd pick those songs because the meteorite is coming from space.
Yeah.
But maybe someone asked me what I think my favorite song in the world, and that's a really, really hard question. I'm not saying
it's impossible, isn't it? Yeah.
It is impossible, and I'm one of those people that likes tapas because that way I can have everyone's plate basically.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that way about music, but I do think one of the greatest songs ever written is Angel from Montgomery by John Prine.
Yeah.
So if possible, it would be a medley. It'd be Rocket Man, it would be Space Captain, and Angel from Montgomery. I'm not quite sure how this is working, but with all of those incredible musicians on stage, and then just for shits and giggles, Keep On Running, because that feels like it's like we could do this, guys. Run.
I like that. Yeah, that's good. That's I like it very much. Els, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been fantastic having you on the Blues Podcast. I wish you lots of success. I know you're going to, when you get back out there and do it, I know you're going to knock them dead as you always do. So keep doing what you're doing and enjoy it. And hopefully I'll catch you on the road sometime, somewhere.
Amazing. Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, I hope to meet you in person, or just come to your studio in France. It sounds fun.
Yeah. Yep. You're always welcome. Thank you for joining us on the Blues Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, and also make sure you leave us a review and a rating, as this helps other people find the Blues Podcast. I'll catch you next time. Bye.